Hey there, it's Leslie at Leslie's Cookies and Treats, and it's not too early to start Christmas cookies. And on that note, do you want to create the cutest Christmas cookies that Santa's ever seen, or make a beautiful Christmas village cookie set that you can serve at your holiday dinner? Well, join my online cookie decorating classes, and following step-by-step video tutorials, you'll find out everything you need to know to make cute cookies just like these and have an unforgettable Christmas dessert that's perfect for sharing or for gifting. Get more details in the description. Those classes are really a lot of fun, but back to this tall Santa cookie. So this cookie design came from an image I saw at Treasure Box Designs. It's for scrapbooking, but I purchased the image and made a cookie out of it. So you can really get your inspiration from just about anywhere. And this little guy is just totally adorable, and I'm excited to turn him into a cookie. So I don't usually do this, but I am outlining all of the sections with my icing. My icing is about a 15-second consistency, and I'm just going to slowly go around all of the areas and put an outline down. As I'm outlining, I'm watching my icing and where it is falling. I am not watching my piping bag, and that is a great tip for getting your lines right next to the edge where you want them to go. And I'm also holding my bag up again away from the cookie about 1/4 of an inch. In some of the curved areas, maybe only 1/8 of an inch. So as you're outlining, if you lose control of your icing, it's okay to go ahead and stop and then restart. And outlining all the sections before you begin piping is a great way to know where your colors need to go so that you don't have to think about it as you're decorating. And now I'm just going to start filling in these sections. I am not going to fill in sections that are touching each other. So I'm going to make sure to fill in alternating sections so that they will dry a bit and leave some separation between the two areas of icing so it doesn't just all blend together into one big area. I'm also going to be using my scribe right after I flood each section to smooth the icing, to get it out into any points and corners, and also pop any air bubbles that might be lurking underneath the icing. I think craters often happen because the icing sits up on top of the outline that we just piped, and it doesn't get all the way down to the cookie, so I'm going to use my scribe in an up and down motion and make sure that that icing gets all the way down to the cookie and is smooth and has a professional finish. Now I'm going to put this cookie aside to dry in front of a table fan for about 10 to 15 minutes before coming back now and piping in this right leg. And then I'm going to move up to the hat. Again, I wanted that other icing that we had already piped to have a chance to crust over before piping in these sections that were right next to it. And then once again, I'm going to take my scribe and I'm going to use it to make sure this area is nice and smooth, and I get my icing out to all of these little points where that piping bag cannot easily go. Having the scribe and using it is the one key way to make sure you get a really professional, smooth finish on your cookies. And because I am using a 15-second flood consistency royal icing, it also takes a little bit longer to settle down on its own, and it can really benefit from using the scribe. But also, I don't have to worry about my icing overflowing the edges because it is thicker. And I can use the same consistency icing for outlining and for flooding, so I don't have to make multiple bags of the same color of icing. And as before, I'm just making sure not to pipe right next to any other areas of wet icing so it has time to crust over and time to dry before moving on to the next section. And I'm also making sure to clean my scribe before I go into other sections so that I don't bring color from one area into another area. I'm going to pop this guy back in front of the table fan, and now that the icing is crusted over, I'm going to come back in and pipe in his mustache, and then use my scribe to shape it and really bring it out to a point and to settle this icing down and make sure it's getting all the way to the cookie so I don't get a crater in that little area. And I'm also being sure to cover up my outlines here because I don't want to see my outline. With some cookies, the outline is nice when you can see the outline, but in this cookie, I don't want it to have an outline. Now I'm just going to flood in the ball of his hat, and I'm not going to worry about making the ball of his hat smooth because I am going to come back in later and cover that up with another layer of icing. And since the icing for the boots and for his body have crusted over and the other leg, we can go ahead and fill in this left leg and again use the scribe to get that icing all the way down to the points and smooth it out. And then I'm going to come up here to the hat and put a nice layer of icing here. This is an area that will tend to crater, so I'm going to give it a generous amount of icing And again, make sure to get that icing all the way down to the cookie by using an up and down motion with my scribe, as well as to shape the icing and smooth it out. And so now that it's all smooth, I want to go ahead and give it a wet on wet stripe here. So right into the wet green icing, I'm going to touch down with my red icing and just move a stripe across the hat brim. And if you get a buildup of icing on your icing tip, just stop and wipe it away. And then you can use your scribe to settle down any peaks if you have them, or even a paintbrush to push down the little bumps at the end where you started and stopped with your icing. And then let that hat brim dry before you come back in and give him some hair. I'm just going to pipe in some little points and spikes, and then I'll use my scribe to kind of shape it. But be gentle because that hat brim is still not fully dry all the way, and you don't want to poke into it with your scribe. And then I'm going to set this guy back in front of a fan to dry until everything crusts over, and then I can come back in and flood in his nose. You can use white here also and paint it when it's dry, but I had a flesh tone, so I'm just going to use that. And I'm going to pipe a couple of little laces here on his boots. And again, just use my paintbrush to settle down the ends of these and shape it a little bit. My paintbrush is just barely damp. And then I have some stocking royal icing transfers that I made in another video that I'll link in the description. And I'm just going to pick one and put some icing on the back and stick it right down here in his legs where that little bump out is. And then I'm going to pipe him in some arms. I'm just going to go right along the edge of the cookie and the beard and outline an area where I think the arm should be. And I'll do the same thing on the other side, and then I'll flood that in. And because we're doing this on top of the icing that we've already piped, this will give it a little bit of a dimension and add some character to this cookie. And as always, use your scribe to help shape the arms and settle the icing down, but again, be careful not to poke into the icing that's underneath because it is still not fully crusted over. And I got a little bit of the red icing up on the mustache, and I don't want it there, so I'm going to take a barely dampened paintbrush and wipe that away. And I let that dry again in front of a fan, and now that it's dry, I'm going to go ahead and give him some hands. So I'm just going to pipe some hands right over the top of this stocking here so it looks like he's holding it, and use my scribe to shape it. You could have also done this as mittens and made it a different color. And then pop this guy back in front of the table fan to dry, and now that it's dry, I'm going to make some holly on this stocking. So I have some stiff icing that I put in a piping bag, and I cut a tip of a V in my piping bag. And with the point of the V facing up, I'm going to put my bag against the cookie and slowly squeeze out icing and pull back at the same time, kind of moving the piping bag in a forward and backwards motion to create a leaf. When I want the leaf to be finished, I'm going to stop squeezing and release the bag, which will pull it out to a point. And on this leaf here, my point's kind of up in the air, and I don't want that because it will break when I bag the cookies, so I'm just going to poke it down a little bit. And then I'm just going to put one drop of holly berry in the middle. And then this cutie is done. If you like this design, be sure to check out Treasure Box Designs. She has tons of cute designs. Here are some other cookies I'll be doing. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. I really appreciate your support, and it helps me bring you more tutorials. Bye!